everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're joined by Editor-in-Chief of the Post Millennial, Libby Emmons, as well as former national spokesperson for the RNC, Elizabeth Pipko. Ladies, welcome to the show. Big news, Libby. We got big news today. Travis and Taylor, it's official. They're getting married. There's a ring. There's an engagement. Do we think this means Taylor is going to stop with all of the sob stories in terms of her songs and the whole thing about breakups? What's she going to write about for her music from now on? What do you think?
No, I think Travis better watch out. And even more, so should any kids that they might have. She's going to spill her guts on that. Could you imagine a Taylor Swift mom album? I think that would be a little cringy, in fact. But, hopefully that's what we have to look forward to. I think that, they should have a bunch of kids. And then I guess they should probably break up because they're in Hollywood. And then the kids can become all trans. And that will be the legacy of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. It will be perfectly in Hollywood tradition.
Libby's got it all planned out, Liz, apparently. But listen, I'm here for love and engagements and celebrations. I think we need more of that sort of thing. I will give Taylor a little bit of credit for maybe introducing girls out there to football. I have always been a big football fan. Liz, I know your husband is a big football fan, but for some girls it feels a little like, oh, I don't know, I don't understand it. Maybe girls paid a little more attention. What's your whole take on the Travis Taylor? Do they last? What are we giving them, Liz? What do you think?
I don't know, I feel like a bad person, hoping that they don't. So I'll just say I hope that they last. I hope everyone's relationships last and last long and are great. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, but I don't despise her like a bunch of people do. I hope for the best. Her songs haven't been great lately, so maybe the love will bring back her talent that she lost a few years ago. Maybe it'll bring back some of the country stuff that she started with, which I actually liked. But I wish everyone the best. I don't want that karma, so I hope they last and I hope it's great.
P.S. I really believe in karma. I believe in karma so big league, as President Trump says. And by the way, ladies, we see it happen. You see what's going on right now with, of course, this Letitia James case, the AG case that was absolutely bogus and ridiculous, that was brought against Donald Trump as lawfare, as a way to smear him in the midst of a presidential election where they tried to value Libby Mar-a-Lago at $18 million. Completely outrageous. And of course, President Trump had to pony up $500 million in fines for that. It was just insane. That, of course, has been overturned by an appellate court. I feel like all of the stuff with the auto pin is starting to come out. We're now finding out about the Russia collusion hoax and all that went on there. I got to tell you something, Libby. I really believe in karmic energy. I believe in being a good person and doing the right thing. It comes back to you. The universe brings it back. God brings it back. I feel very happy, though, about all of these things that are coming back around, and we're finally getting the truth about all of them. Our medical system, we got people in place now who are actually saying, yeah, you know what? The things we said about COVID, that we had people tell us about masking and vaccines and all the nonsense, they were all wrong about it. It did start in a lab. Feels like it's coming around, Libby. Do you feel that?
Yeah, isn't it one of those things where everybody who was told that they were wrong and needed to shut up and get off social media and had to lose their jobs, now it turns out that everybody was right in the first place? I was very happy to see the Tish James civil case overturned. That was one of the stupidest, most egregiously partisan civil cases that we have ever seen in this country, and I'm very glad that it's not there anymore. It didn't make any sense at all to say that, there were so many doofy things about it, right? To say that Trump had overvalued his properties and that he took loans out and then paid them back with interest. And so no one was harmed. Literally no one was harmed. And Tish James made it all up. And now it turns out that she may be on the hook for mortgage fraud herself, which would be exactly the kind of karma that you're talking about.
Totally.
And, I don't know if she is or not, but it certainly makes sense to turn the tables and just have a little look-see at what's going on in her finances as well. And we've also seen John Bolton with the having his home raided over potentially classified documents, absconding with official secrets after the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, which also made no sense. It's one of the most absurd raids ever, and no one can even find a reason for it. So yeah, I think you're right. Karma's coming back around, and a lot of people are being proven right, and that's kind of what we thought was going to happen all along.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it, Liz. Isn't it interesting, though, by the way, that CNN wasn't tipped off, Fox News wasn't tipped off outside of John Bolton's house when that happened? Remember, Roger Stone? They all knew about it somehow. Miracle, miraculous. They all knew about it. Nobody was outside waiting on that one. I don't know. Everybody can make their own assumptions there. We're making America safe again, though, Liz. And I think that is one of the things that Donald Trump will go down in history for finally doing. It's so basic. These kind of things, like safe communities, these are just basic tenets of life. Like, you have to have safety and security, otherwise nothing else matters. Yet our nation's capital, as we know, was just overrun with crime, carjackings, murders, sky-high numbers for those sorts of things. And so President Trump said, look, I'm going to take this under my own accord. I'm going to make sure we federalize the police force here in D.C. He has 30 days to do it. We are now 13 days into this, Liz. We have not seen one murder in 13 days. This is the first time in recorded history that we can say that. Violent crime has dropped 22% since this happened 13 days ago. It's really incredible to see. And my favorite part now is that this is a great thing for all of the people who live in D.C. This is a great thing for anyone who wants to go visit D.C. President Trump is saying, you know what? I may just take this elsewhere. I may replicate this in other cities that are not doing the job of keeping their citizens safe. And my favorite part, Liz, is when he says that, then all of these Democrat mayors of these cities, because they're all run by Democrats, of course, the most dangerous crime-ridden cities in our country, they all went crazy about it. Why wouldn't, Liz, you want somebody to come in, clean up the streets, and actually do the job of keeping your citizens safe? I don't get it.
No, I don't either. And it's been such a fun few weeks for me because when I go on these, they claim to be mainstream, unbiased, but let's say liberal networks, and they yell at me about this, I finally get to look at them and say, you guys are going to regret this so much. It's like the men and women's sports thing. Like, you guys will just take the losing side in every 80-20 issue and end up losing more voters, as we now know. I mean, they're losing voters in every single state across the board for the Democrat Party. I don't understand why they can't go out and say, I didn't vote for Donald Trump, I don't support Donald Trump, but this is a good thing. And I'm glad that he's doing it. It is so pathetic and it's so embarrassing, and I'm loving every single second of it, because any normal person that you ask, even liberal friends of mine in DC, are happy to whisper to me and say, I'm glad he's doing this. I was too scared to walk my kid to school, or I was too scared to jog through the park. I can only jog at home in my treadmill because it's too scary to go outside, especially certain hours of the day. So I think it's fantastic, and I hope that they keep it up because it is so embarrassing, and everyone sees through it, right? There's kind of a consensus in our country that we want to all be safe, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican that's making that the reality for us. And I hope they continue up with this nonsense because it's only helping President Trump.
It's amazing, actually, to see that there are people out there, Libby, whose response to this is, well, we don't want this. One of them, by the way, is Wes Moore. He's the governor of Maryland. You have very high violent crime numbers. It's above the national average in the state of Maryland. Baltimore is not a safe city. I have to fly in there a lot when I go to D.C. They've kind of changed the flight patterns in and out of D.C. I fly in and out of Baltimore a lot. He doesn't want it. And my favorite is that he's saying, oh, well, it's not sustainable. It's costing over $1 million a day to make sure we clean up our streets. Well, what's one life worth, Wes Moore? I don't know. You've had this year alone, I think 200 plus murders in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump has gone 13 days now without a single one. So what's the value in that? We also have brought in $170 billion, Libby, in tariff money. So I'm sure the president is able to allocate some of the money that he's bringing in to, places like this. But look, whenever you see aggravated assaults up, carjackings up, auto theft up in Baltimore, one would think that if you were the governor of that state, that houses Baltimore, you may say, you know what, President Trump, I do want to do something great for my citizens. Bring them on in. No, he's not for it, though, Libby. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just Wes Moore, right? It's also Brendan Johnson in Chicago, and it's Karen Bass in Los Angeles. And these are mayors who are coming out and talking about how President Trump is somehow racist for wanting to stop young black people from getting killed in our major metropolitan cities. And that's what this is really about. You even had Jasmine Crockett talking to Gavin Newsom about how racist it is that the Trump administration is going after black-led cities. And it makes absolutely no sense, because these are the people who were out there just a couple of years ago screaming to make sure that we all knew that Black Lives Matter. And we were all going, yeah, of course, Black Lives Matter. We know that for sure. And now that you have Trump in the White House, he's saying, yes, Black Lives Matter for sure. The young people of Washington, D.C., their lives matter. Let's stop them from getting killed. Let's go out there and put in curfews so that people can't hurt each other. And that's what's going on. We are, this administration is saving the lives of young black people in Washington, D.C. And you have outlets like The Intercept and others complaining about the cost. What cost could you possibly put on the life of a young American person, right? There is, 5 million, 20 million? I don't think we could get a number high enough to match the value of a young American life. And that's what we have going on. We're saving lives in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., the largest population group is of black people in Washington. And there's no reason that these moms and dads should see their kids come home in body bags. And there's no reason that these kids should be allowed to fight with each other out in the street, as we've been seeing in the Navy Yard. And now we're not seeing that. And I applaud this maneuver to, save American kids. We need our kids. We need them strong. We need them educated. And we need them safe. So I appreciate the efforts that Trump is putting into place in D.C. He has the law on his side there, because the government can federalize that city. I think it'll be more difficult in other cities, but I think these mayors should really get their heads on straight and realize what's important. What's not important is their little power grab and their little fiefdoms in these cities that they're running into the ground. What's really important are our kids and the young people of this country.
Yeah, and I think something that's interesting too with all of this is I love that you're talking about the kids, Libby, because you look at something else that President Trump and Jeanine Pirro are trying to do there in D.C. And they're saying, look, a lot of the crime is being committed by these kids. They're 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids who are doing it, because the law says, Liz, that these kids cannot be tried as adults. They basically go through some sort of a family court. They don't even go to criminal court when they commit crimes, when they commit violent crimes, when they commit carjackings. The people out there who want to see this kind of chaos reign, they understand that. So they recruit these young kids to go out and do their dirty work. And because of the way the law is written, it doesn't, there's no consequence for them. Well, guess what teaches kids how to be good adults? Consequences do. So I love that you have President Trump and Jeanine Pirro out there saying, look, we're looking at lowering the minimum age requirement to charge someone as an adult. There have to be consequences, Liz, for these kids who are going out there and committing these crimes. Otherwise, they're never going to learn anything. It starts here. It starts now. If they start down a path of crime, and this is all they know, they're not in school because nobody is forcing them to go to school. The schools aren't teaching them anything anyway, which is why we're trying to get rid of the Department of Education, which is why in the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump has money in there to go to school choice for parents so they can actually send their kids to schools that teach them how to live one day, how to be an adult one day. You have to have consequences for these kids. Otherwise, this sort of thing is just going to continue, and it is a self-perpetuating cycle. These kids start here at 12, 13, 14. They're never going to get out of this system. This is going to be their life forever.
Right, and when you look at the ages, I mean, you said it there, they're, like you said, 12, 13, 14. It's actually not just a problem of crime, of, law and order. It's a problem of, a really deep systemic issue where we're literally allowing, if not encouraging, young people to take on these paths, knowing that they're not going to be, dealt any real consequences that would actually scare them off of those horrible decisions. And it's really sad. And I think it's almost sadder, the fact that if Joe Biden had said, we're going to look into this and looking into changing that age so that we can actually prosecute these kids that are committing these crimes, he would be celebrated, right? He'd be applauded, because they would say, what a smart idea. Not only will you start kind of limiting some of these crimes and bringing back law and order, but you're going to help put these kids on the right path path and change the trajectory of so many young people in DC. And when Donald Trump does it, it's the polar opposite response. Again, any single person asked about this, if you throw out the words Republican or Democrat, they would all be on the same side. Every normal, moral, common sense human being in this country would be on the exact same side. Nobody wants to see this. We don't care if it's in a blue state or a red state. We don't want to see this happening on the streets, and we don't want to see it happening to the next generation. So the fact is, this should be celebrated. And again, when we look back in a couple of weeks, it's going to be, and Democrats will again regret the side that they took in another basic common sense issue.
It's amazing to see them just continue to melt down and go down. Like, when I think they've kind of gotten to rock bottom, I guess they haven't. They just keep doubling down on crazy stuff and ideas that no one agrees with. One of those people, I would say, is the person who seems to be the front runner to become the next mayor of New York City, Mamdani. It sounds like he is okay with not punishing misdemeanor crimes. Libby, it's exactly what we're talking about here. If you let a misdemeanor just slide, then guess what the next step is? This is kind of the nonsensical way they operate the state of California, where if it's under like $1,000, they don't even do anything. They just kind of write it off. It's crazy. You have the Democratic Socialists of America's national platform that he agrees with, and he says that it labels prisons and police as instruments of class war, and says their purpose is to guarantee the domination of the working class. So basically, they want the abolition of any sort of incarceration, from prisons to police themselves. They feel like that this is just a bad thing. It feels bad, Libby. He's on board with this. I guess he's okay with their platform. But if you are not punishing the misdemeanor crimes out there, guess what happens next? The crimes get bigger and more violent and more dangerous for the people who live in those cities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the guy who wants to be the mayor of New York City. Libby, this is crazy.
It is crazy, and it's exactly like you said with California. California had a law that said any shoplifting or theft under $900, I think it was not going to be punishable. They eventually had to overturn that because it turned out that big syndicates put into place massive shoplifting rings, and they were just going up and down the coast stealing everything. You also had a situation in California where loitering was no longer a misdemeanor. And what police said was they no longer had an entry point to talk to people who may be trafficked on the street into prostitution. They had no reason to stop and talk to them. So taking away loitering meant more victimization of people who were in human trafficking on the streets of Los Angeles. That's a problem. This is what Mamdani wants to do to New York City. It's not just with the shoplifting. It's not just with the prostitution, which he also thinks should be decriminalized or legalized, which is just a recipe for, more human and child trafficking. But he also is in favor of, not having what has been called in New York City broken windows policing. And the thing that broken windows policing is it's like I was saying with the loitering. It gives officers a chance to intervene in a person's life and in a circumstance early on, before somebody gets hurt, before there's a violent crime, before there's, a big theft going on, before there's a break in entry. It gives officers a chance to stop and talk to someone. Hey, you're graffitiing something. What else are you doing? What else is going on? You're jumping a turnstile. What else is going on? Where are you going? What's happening with you? What are you about? And we need our beat cops to know the people in the neighborhood, to know what's going on, and to have reasons to go talk to them. That's important. And this is the kind of thing that Mamdani wants to get rid of. The Democratic Socialists of America, I guess they believe that if left to their own devices, all people would dance around and have a beautiful time. No one would ever hurt anybody. There'd be no rape. There'd be no theft. There'd be no murder.
Yeah.
There'd be no greed or envy. We'd just all live in some perfect Eden.
Kumbaya.
But they are wrong. We know that they are wrong. There's no such thing as utopia. There's certainly no such thing as a socialist utopia, because people have free will. People have avarice, and this is the kind of thing that we need police to go around and say, hey, let's not do that. Let's live in a good society. We're not going to let you break windows. We're not going to let you jump turnstiles, which is another thing. You have a lot of people in New York saying that shouldn't be illegal. Well, yeah, it should, because what happens after that? Are they attacking somebody on the MTA? Are they robbing people on the subway? Are they attacking the conductors? What's going on? You need to prosecute the small stuff, because as you said, if you don't, you just end up with really big stuff.
It's basic human nature. This is like when, I got 2 kids. I got 3 dogs. You've got to set the boundaries and the parameters for everybody. Otherwise, things just get out of control very quickly. My kids know things they are not allowed to do. And if they cross that line, there are significant consequences. And believe me, they don't like those consequences. So guess what? They don't cross that line. This is just basic stuff. It's interesting, the prostitution stuff. I can't wrap my head around why you would want to have legalized prostitution in New York City, which I guess this is what this guy is sort of advocating for. I didn't live in New York City during this time, but what I understand is prior to Giuliani coming in, there were parts of New York, Liz, you couldn't even go to. I mean, you grew up in New York City, right? If you went like west of 10th Avenue, you didn't even want to go over there because it was grimy. There were, basically prostitutes walking the street as soon as the sun went down. We're talking like 6:30, 7 p.m. at night when you might want to be out to a dinner with your children. I can't imagine why anybody would think this is a good idea. It took a lot of work to clean that up. It took the broken windows type system Libby just talked about to ensure that that city got back on track, that people felt like it was a safe, clean place to live. I mean, I can't imagine why anybody thinks that is a great idea. What do you think, Liz? It all seems like everything we learn about Mamdani, it's even worse. Every time I hear a little bit more about him, I'm like, oh, wow, this could even be worse than we think.
I actually fear it's going to be worse than we think. It's like especially painful for you and me, considering that's where we lived. And like I want to even at times consider going back home, or even, when I visit, thinking maybe I won't be able to do this next year once he wins. I mean, the reality is I was very young, obviously, so I don't remember too much, but there's a reason people in New York obsess over Rudy Giuliani. There's a reason that I've gone to dinners with him and he gets applause walking all the way down the street into the restaurant. People always say the man saved New York, and regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you appreciated him for that. There were times after 9/11, I remember being a little kid walking around New York, and the way people talked about Mayor Giuliani, it was as if he was, like the hero we didn't deserve, truly. And it, I'm sure, wasn't popular at some point in time. I'm sure when he first went in, he had some naysayers. But the fact is, at the end of the day, he kind of turned the city around and, fixed everything, and it's now been torn to shreds, right? Everything he did has been thrown away. I mean, if de Blasio didn't destroy it completely, Mamdani is going to, and probably make it even worse than it once was. I'm scared. I'm sad. I can't imagine that we're here. Then again, we can't trust a word he says, because he said some despicable things about the NYPD. And then after we saw that shooting the other day in the building where the NYPD officer was shot, he was actually working there off duty that day, just taking an extra job. Then he said he actually isn't sure if you should listen to his prior, comments on NYPD. Actually, we do respect the NYPD, so we can't trust the word he says. So he's not only a socialist and a disgusting person, he's also obviously a liar. So we don't know what he's going to do. I fear it's going to be actually worse than anything you and I have talked about. But it's really, really sad, because whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you can usually admit New York City is one of the greatest cities in the world. And I think he's going to put the nail in the coffin in whatever we had left post-COVID of New York.
It's so sad. And it's also really sad that he tried to do the bench press. I mean, not that I want to go down this path. Look, everybody knows that I work out, and I'm not trying to shame anybody, but if you're a 33-year-old man and you don't have full confidence that you can bench press unassisted 135 pounds, I gotta be honest, ladies, I can do that, okay? I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it in front of a bunch of cameras. That was so embarrassing. I had such secondhand embarrassment watching that for him. And it just, you know what? You're supposed to be a man. But it is so indicative, Libby. I felt like watching that. I was like, this is today's Democrat Party. They just,
sure is.
Someone else was helping him get the bar up. They can't do anything themselves. They need a handout. They need somebody else to do the work for them. This guy, it's like such a beta male moment that I was like, God, of course he's running as a socialist for mayor of New York City. I was just, he shouldn't have tried it. Libby, that's my take. Don't do it. If you know you can't, don't.
I agree with you. I mean, it's one thing to not be able to lift. It's another thing to get cowed into making a fool of yourself in front of everybody. And that's the sort of beta part, right? It's like, if you know you can't do it, be like, no, fellas, I'm good.
I'll let you guys handle it. Yeah.
Right. Whatever it is, like, don't put yourself in a situation to make yourself just look a clown like that. Absolutely ridiculous. And I agree with what Liz was saying about Rudy Giuliani. He was the best mayor ever. And the one time that I did meet him, I went up to him at a party and I saw him there and I was like, oh my goodness. And I went up to him and I said, you know, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for what you did for the city of New York, you know, because that's his legacy and it has been destroyed. And this Mamdani guy, he has absolutely no business running for mayor of New York City. He has no business leading what is literally the greatest city in the world. And I really hope that, you know, somebody gets him out of the way. But the Democrats have not done themselves any favors at all. They brought into effect this stupid ranked choice voting system, which is rank. They somehow, you know, let Eric Adams just be completely corrupt, his entire administration. And the worst part about it is how classlessly corrupt it is. You know, I say that as someone who spent a long time in New York as well. Like one of his recent aides or whatever got busted for bribery, including $10,000 worth of seafood. Like, buy your own lobster, girl. Like, it's okay. You can do that. You know, you have a job and
a lot of
everything.
seafood.
You don't need that. Absolutely ridiculous. And Eric Adams, you know, with the bribery about Turkish Airlines, at least if you're going to be corrupt, do it for something good. Don't do it for stuff you could just pay for on your own anyway. You know what I'm saying? And then Andrew Cuomo, what's he doing there? He made a fool of himself, and everybody knows it. Yeah, he's like Mamdani, except he's trying to like lift his record, and he can't get that up either. So I think that's a real problem. And why I will say this over and over again. Why do Republicans keep running Curtis Sliwa, who is an honorable man and he's a good man, but he's not going to win. He's not going to win.
He's a nice guy. I agree with you. I like Curtis Sliwa. I think he's a nice guy. We got to get somebody, a good Republican.
Somebody in there.
What are we
strong?
Nobody
like
wants
Giuliani,
this job.
like Bloomberg. Bloomberg was a Republican when he ran, and it was that 1-2 punch, the Giuliani-Bloomberg 1-2 punch that was just, it was so good. It was so good.
So those were the good old days. That's when I moved to New York. I moved to New York when Bloomberg was the mayor. And then, my God, we got that complete loser who wrote Black Lives Matter all over the roads, and that was his.
And then with his little dictator dancing with his wife in Times Square on New Year's Eve, like he owned the place, telling the rest of us to stay home while the guys on CNN got drunk and complained about it. What a nightmare! What a little Stalinist nightmare.
New York has been through it. It's been a season in New York. We got to get out of it. I mean, because it is the greatest city on earth. I love New York City. I spent basically, I would say, the best years of my life thus far, although I think they're great now because of my kids and the whole thing. But those were great years in New York City. I lived in New York for almost 17 years. I love it. We want it back. We got to get somebody in there to clean it up. It can't be, and none of these people are good. It's all bad news. Bad news for the Democrats, though. Liz, you brought this up earlier. The Democrats, between 2020 and 2024, have lost 2.1 million registered voters. Guess how much the Republicans have lost? They haven't lost a single one. They have gained 2.4 million voters. So the voter registration deficit is 4.5 million between the Republicans and the Democrats. We have been working overtime. We've had people out there like Scott Pressler who have been just registering people to vote all over the country, really pushing hard on it. Obviously, Liz, you and I were at the RNC this time last year. We worked really hard at all of that. And here's the really great news for Republicans as we head into these midterms. Guess the states that have seen the biggest losses of Democrat registrations: Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. These are all important states. We're looking at all these states every single cycle, but coming up, this is a big deal. But this has been the trend, right? We saw Miami-Dade County flip red this past 2024 presidential election cycle. That was something that I think people never expected to see happen. And the shift, Liz, I think is fascinating because there are a lot of young voters who are now trending more Republican. Whenever you look at the 2018 numbers, 66% of all new voters under 45 were registered Democrats. That number has now dropped to 48%. There's a shift happening. We see how crazy they are on the left. We see that they're standing for all the wrong things. They're doubling down on the crazy stuff, like we continue to say. This does bode well, I think, though, for Republicans as we head into the midterms and as we're, of course, always looking at the next presidential election?
No, it bodes super well. I mean, I know a lot of people who have told me I'm not going to change my registration. It's a lot of effort, but I'm never voting Democrat again.
Oh.
So think about how many people actually are not voting but didn't take, the time to do that. It's a lot. You have to really hate the party to go, I'm going to go and take time out of my day to actually make sure that they know I no longer belong to them, right? People are really, really angry about it. And it's so great to see because that's exactly what they deserve. They've held these different groups of people for years, taken their vote for granted, done absolutely nothing, and then laughed behind closed doors about it. So you mentioned young voters. I think that's the biggest one. We talked about a lot about black men. We talked about Latino voters. We talked a lot about different groups during the last election, but no one really expected the shift with young voters. And I always said Donald Trump, I fell in love with Donald Trump when I was 19. I thought he was the coolest person in the world. For me, it was because I was young, probably, but I didn't know how many people agreed. The amount of young people that are sick of the Democrat Party that love President Trump's authenticity, that might not even agree with a lot of his policies, but know that they have nowhere else to go because at least he's authentic, tells it like it is, and doesn't lie to their faces like the party they've been told for years they're supposed to align with. I think people are genuinely excited for the shift. I think it's actually cool to be a Republican for the first time in my lifetime, for sure. And I think Democrats are really, really, really screwed. There's no other way to put it. They have no idea what to do. They don't know what resonates with people anymore. They have no idea what people want. They still don't understand how Donald Trump won in 2016, let alone 2024, and they're losing by every single metric.
Yeah, and by the way, Libby, we saw the DNC chair at, I guess it was one of their meetings. They're trying to gather themselves, trying to figure out still what happened in 24. And all he had to say, this was the message. It was LFG. Let's effing go. But let's go where? What are you guys doing? You guys are just floundering around. It's crazy whenever you think about how far they've truly fallen. Look, the stuff that people are sick and tired of is the nonsense what's the restaurant where they just took the man off of it?
Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel. Just leave stuff alone. Sydney Sweeney, leave her alone. You guys are totally crazy out there. You're not winning anyone back with any of this stuff. Libby, I don't know. I don't know how they dig themselves out of this one. They have nothing that they are offering the American people. And you know how I knew that being Republican was cool again is last year during football season. I'm excited. I'm a football fan. It's coming back. Last year during football season, when everybody on these football fields started doing the Trump dance, you saw people catching touchdowns in end zones, doing a Trump dance, tackling somebody, Trump dance. That's it. Libby, they're toast on the Democrat side. Sorry.
Yeah, I also loved the Trump dance touchdown stuff. I thought that was really fun.
Great.
But yeah, you're exactly right. The Democrats have no platform. They have no leadership. They have no purpose. And they don't know what to tell their voters. They opened their recent meeting with a land acknowledgement, complaining about how they were having their meeting in, what was it, Minnesota, and it was on the land of a whole bunch of extinct people, and that this was somehow a problem. But you'll notice they complained about it, but they didn't offer to give any of the land back.
Funny how
because
that
they
works.
just want to say that it's a problem, but they don't actually want to do anything about it. And that's how they feel about their whole party right now as well. They stand for more murder. They stand for more child sex changes. And somehow their only great hope is the big tall white man in California, Gavin Newsom. So they're betraying everything that they believe in over and over again. And then they're saying they never even believed in that original thing in the first place. It's really tragic to see. I believe in a two-party system. I think we need a good opposition. You say, hey, I like that idea. I don't like that idea. Let's go back and forth, and then you get the best ideas out of everybody. That's the best case scenario, but we don't have that at all. We just have an opposition party that is floundering. They have no idea what they're about. They have no policies to stand on, and I think they're going to keep going down. And you can see that with Gavin Newsom. He's trying to take a card out of the Trump playbook. He's trying to be sort of cool like Trump and be a little bit insulting, but he's not cute and he's not funny. And when he says it, he just kind of sounds like a dick,
He does. You know what? You just can't. You got to be yourself. Authenticity will always reign. And that is why I agree with you, Liz. That's why people were so drawn initially to Donald Trump. because man, he came out and people were like, whoa, what is this guy saying? What's going on here? But people liked it because it was real, because it's really him. You can't try to do your best Trump impression to, mimic him and think that it's going to work for you. It's not going to work. It's never going to work. Bless their hearts on the Democrat side. I agree, Libby. I think it would be great for our country to have the opposition party not be completely insane, to have some counter. Yeah, I mean, that's how this country was founded, right?
But we're not there.
We're supposed to be able to debate like basic ideas, but we're so far, no, we're not even close to there. So until they rein it in and get it back together, I'm okay with Republicans sweeping the midterms. I'm okay with Republicans hanging on.
I'm okay with that too.
To the presidency for another 4 years. Good luck to them. Libby and Liz, you guys are the best. Thank you as always for joining us here for The Right View. To everybody at home, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow, and we'll see you back here next time for more.